Hi guys, good evening. Welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie. I hope you've all had a wonderful, restful weekend. I hope you all saw Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. A lot of you have already seen it more than once. Kudos to you, by the way, for finding time to do that. That's awesome. I only got to see it one time on Thursday night because I spent most of my weekend at WonderCon, which was awesome, by the way. I posted a few pictures. I hope you guys like them on my Facebook page. But in tonight's video, of course, as usual, I will be doing my Walking Dead episode review since it is Sunday night. And this is my episode review for episode 615 titled East. Before I start blabbering on and on, of course, like I always do, please be warned, this video recap and review will be full of big spoilers. So if you're not caught up on tonight's episode, or if you're behind on The Walking Dead, a couple of episodes, please do not keep watching or listening to this video, as I will be discussing big spoilers regarding tonight's episode. And once you do get caught up, come on back and give it a watch. It's really good. Or at least I hope it is. So, to start off with, the first thing I noticed right away was like everybody was going about their business in Alexandria. And, we saw that, we heard the confrontation Carol had with some other survivor. We see all the physical objects that was left in the aftermath of the little confrontation. We hear their voices, but we don't know what's really happening. And then it cuts back to Alexandria, back in the present. And the first thing I noticed was when Carl picked up the pistol, one of the pistols retrieved from one of the dead saviors, carved on the wooden handle of the pistol, was sure enough Lucille. It was clearly a baseball bat with barbed wire wrapped around it. So clearly whoever the savior was who owned that pistol really admired or feared Negan, or especially Lucille. And that was just a juicy Easter egg. I was like, oh god, he's coming. It's it's frightening and yet exciting at the same time. What I really liked about this episode was that we saw, we saw a character really acting on their conscience, or I should say two characters. We have Carol, who ditched Alexandria, and what was so fascinating was even with the confrontation with the saviors on the road, she starts breaking down, and that's not part of, part of it was an act, but a part of it was also her genuinely not wanting to hurt or kill anyone. She was trying so damn hard, desperately even, not to get into a violent confrontation with these assholes. Unfortunately, all the saviors know is confrontation and violence, and they're either going to kill you or they're going to take you back with them. And what was even scarier is that they could already guess and tell where she was coming from. So obviously the saviors have been watching Alexandria for quite a while, which probably means that they either know about their gang getting blown up on the road, or they managed to track down the people who killed all their men at the compound. Either way, the saviors know where Alexandria is, and you could bet your sweet bits that that means Negan also knows where Alexandria is. So, it's scary. It is scary. And that was Carol acting on her conscience. And, oh god, what I loved in that scene when she's confronting the saviors is when she uses the spiked car she had stolen from Alexandria. And the savior who survived the gun battle is looking for her. And she's on the other side of the car, and she just, pushes up or forces the wooden spike through the car, and it's already sticking out from the other end. She just pushes it a little bit more, and it impales the guy right through the chest. I was like, oh, cool and creative kill. You really got to give it up for the team on Walking Dead. They really know how to deliver some awesome human and walker kills. I mean, the stuff they come up with is ingenious. It's stuff that makes you think, man, I wonder if I would have thought of that. But anyway, it was a great kill. And then, of course, we've got Daryl on his little mission. And from the promos for this episode last week, we thought Daryl was setting off on his own to find Carol. But what was something that I hadn't thought of, and I wish I did because it feels like this is something I should have seen coming, Daryl headed off on his own to track down Dwight to avenge Denise's death. And I don't think it's necessarily for or about Denise. It's more about him trying to clear his conscience, because he feels bad that he let Dwight live in the first place, but he feels even worse that Dwight used his own crossbow to kill poor Denise in the last episode. Fortunately, Glenn, Michonne, and Rosita track him down, because Rosita's like, oh, I know where he's going. I think I know where he's going. And sure enough, they track Daryl down. They find him, and he's denying that it's about vengeance or anything. He's like, he's going to fix his mistake. He's like, I'm going to do something I should have done back in the beginning. Glenn, Michonne desperately try to talk him out of it. And what I think is interesting is that Rosita's like, no, you know what? I'm going with him too. Fuck it. So obviously those two have a taste for vengeance, and because Rosita probably feels just as bad about losing poor Denise as Daryl does. Not as bad as Daryl, but she's got a taste for vengeance. And of course, as Glenn and Michonne are walking away, talking about everything, what happens? Son of a bitch, the Saviors and Dwight have them surrounded. Oh, fuck. What I also thought was interesting, this episode kept you guessing a lot. This particular episode really made the viewer think and try to figure out what had happened to certain characters. Like when Rick and Morgan show up to the site of the car crash with Carol's car and the Saviors and the dead Saviors, they quickly see that Carol is nowhere in sight, and Morgan points out the trail of blood leading off into a nearby field, implying it could be Carol's since she's nowhere to be found. So right before Carol shot the Savior who was going to knife her, he must have knifed her right as she shot him point blank range. Like he must have hurled around the car, got her somewhere in the chest or in the shoulder, and right as he stabbed her, she pulled the trigger on her gun and shot him, and then Rick finished him off by a knife to the head. And then what was even more surprising, that another Savior survived the little gun battle, and then as soon as Rick and Morgan were left, he started following them because he knows that they're going to lead him to Carol so he could avenge his buddies' deaths and kill Carol, and probably kill Rick and Morgan at the same time. And I really liked the conflict of ideology that was happening between Rick and Morgan, and the good examples they were both using to support both their arguments. And I really thought it was interesting how Morgan, when he admits to keeping the wolf hostage and alive in Alexandria, and despite the fact he did escape and did take Denise hostage, he later ended up saving Denise, and therefore Denise was able to save Carl. And I thought, oh wow, that's a really interesting way to look at it, to point that out, because Morgan is trying to convince Rick that people can change, they can come back, they can come back from the darkness and become better people. And he was trying to make that point about the wolf. And you can tell by the look on Rick's face, he's like, didn't think of it that way before. Okay. What did kind of throw me off, though, is why Morgan was so insistent that Rick go back to Alexandria and Morgan insists on looking for Carol alone. That part kind of threw me off. Is it because Morgan doesn't have a family and Rick does, and he's thinking about what's best for Rick's kids and possibly Michonne? It was like, you're a family man. You've got a family back there. You should go back where it's safe. I will keep looking for it. If I don't come back, do not come looking for me. It was also helpful that, they threw some humor into it where Rick admits to Morgan that Michonne did steal one of his protein bars when he asked her about it way back in the season 6 premiere, which was pretty funny. Okay, and finally, that final holy shit scene. We see Michonne and Glenn are both gagged and tied up by the Saviors in the woods. And of course, to no surprise, Daryl and Rosita, who were not too far, find them and they see them. But you can see that Glenn and Michonne are like, with their hands behind their back, and they're shaking their heads no, like, no, don't do it. They're trying to tell them there's either too many of them or Dwight is right behind him. And sure enough, what happens? Dwight and another Savior are right behind Daryl and Rosita. Dwight's behind Daryl. A Savior has a gun at Rosita's head. And then what the fuck happens? Dwight pulls the trigger. Blood splatters on the camera lens. It cuts to black. And he says, you'll be all right. And it happens. What was so interesting is that it happened so fast. Like, so fast. I was like, what the hell just... Did that just happen? Do I think what happened just happened? And sure enough, I'm like, oh my God, he shot Daryl. He shot him, and most likely shot him right in the shoulder. I don't think it was a fatal gunshot. I mean, if you're going to kill Daryl, you're going to have to do it where it's shocking and right in people's faces and right in the middle of their television screen so they can't look away. So he most likely delivered a non-fatal shot to his shoulder or to his arm possibly, because just the way the gun was positioned, because I don't think he meant to kill him, at least not yet. He did want to disable him, however, and take him and Rosita prisoner. But as Chris Hardwick started to say in the first few minutes of Talking Dead that I caught, he said, and a screech that shook throughout the nation, because everybody probably went, ah! As soon as Daryl got shot through the shoulder, because you know what the t-shirts and the slogan says, if Daryl dies, we riot. And if that's the case next week, then there's probably going to be some actual reports of rioting throughout the country. I would not be surprised if that was the case. Ooh, it's scary. It is scary. I mean, just, you know, what I'm so worried about now is that we've got Rosita, Michonne, Glenn, and Daryl in the custody of the Saviors. So one of those four is going to bite it with Lucille. And right now it looks like it could either be Daryl or Glenn. So it's really, really nerve-wracking, you guys. I hope to Christ it's not Daryl, but if his time has come, then there's nothing we can do about it except swallow it, try to get through the finale, and hopefully most of us will remain interested to keep watching the series despite the absence of Daryl Dixon. Or they could go the comic book route and have Negan kill off Glenn, which would still be shocking and saddening, just not as shocking since most people will probably see it coming. Or if they could totally surprise us, and it might be Michonne. People have been joking about saying ever since she and Rick hooked up that she was next to bite it on The Walking Dead, since Rick's previous lovers always end up dead. You know, Lori and Jesse. So, you know, that's what they're saying about Michonne. I mean, I think it's highly unlikely, but it is possible. I hate to admit it. It is possible now that she's especially now since she's a captive of the Saviors. Oh, one more quick note. We saw the opening scene where Glenn and Maggie were showering together, and we see these bruises and these marks on Maggie's back and her abdomen, and Glenn is talking to her or whispering something to her in the shower while she's kind of nodding, and we can't hear what they're saying because the music is playing and there's no audible dialogue. But, and then later when Maggie starts to clutch her stomach and her abdomen, she starts screaming in pain, like serious pain. She could be having a total miscarriage. What if her little hostage situation with Carol a few episodes ago really fucked her up internally on the inside, really messed up the baby? You know, that would be pretty sad. And now Glenn doesn't know about it because he's off trying to find Daryl, and now he's been captured by the Saviors. And what if Maggie miscarries? You know, that it could, I mean, this is going to sound bad, but if she miscarries and Glenn does die, she won't have a baby to raise alone, and she won't feel as bad or as alone because Glenn won't be there, and then there would be no baby. Or maybe this is just a freak medical thing that's happening, and she needs to go to Hilltop right away or something. I don't know. Either way, very good episode. That final scene really had me like, whoa, what the fuck was that? So now I'm really worried about people who've been captured, the four who have been captured by the Saviors, especially Glenn and Daryl. And I'm also worried about Carol's condition because Rick and Morgan still have not found her yet. And clearly she is bleeding, so she got stabbed somewhere. How badly is another question. So only time will tell. Well, guys, don't forget to tune in next week to AMC for the season 6 finale of The Walking Dead. It has been expanded to 90 minutes. Oh, man, it's going to be a big one, you guys. And how horrifying was that teaser for next week's season finale when we see the tip of Lucille and the back of Negan's head? Oh, God, I'm so scared, but I'm also super excited, and I can't wait. But I'm also terrified as well. This might be the most nervous I have been for a Walking Dead season finale for a very, very long time. especially now that Daryl's been physically crippled, and he and a couple of other characters are in such danger. It's really frightening. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode as much as I did, and I hope you're looking forward to the season finale. What were your thoughts and feelings on tonight's episode? Please feel free to sound off down below in the comments section. Also, check out the link to my Facebook page, which will also be included down there. Let's please keep the comments section respectful and civil of one another's beliefs and opinions, of course. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more review videos like it, and don't forget to like this video as well, and check out my Facebook page at the EdWord, www.facebook.com. All right, guys, have a great rest of the night. I hope you enjoyed Walking Dead and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, and I hope you have a great start to a new week tomorrow. Good night, everybody, and of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.